All right. Well, good morning, everyone. And it's not raining. Yay. So now we can make it a 2-hour program. Just kidding. Well, I'm Carol Reitz, and I'm president of the Bainbridge Island Japanese American Community, and welcome here to all of our guests from out of town, as far away as Houston, and to all our survivors who are here. And this is such a great way to honor those who've experienced great injustice in 1942. Our theme today is Teach the Children. It's a call to all of us to make sure the stories and facts of what happened in 1942 lives on. It's also a nod to the Sansei, or third generation, and the greater community who are no longer with us but had the foresight to make sure this is completed, as well as creating the structure and the programs to give us the tools to make sure the story lives on. Thank you to the next generation who are passionate about learning about their own history and passing it on to their children and the community in which they live. So our lineup is Ellie Abraham, who is a sophomore at Chief Kitsap, will open. Clarence Moriwaki, representing the city of Bainbridge Island. Michelle Bombardier, our City of Bainbridge Poet Laureate. Val Tollefson, representing the Bainbridge Island Japanese American Exclusion Memorial. Danny Storer, representing the Multicultural Advisory Council and talking about our Frank Kitamoto Scholarship winner for this year. Drew Hansen, our Washington State Senator. And our final speaker, Natalie Sakuma. After that speaker, we will have a respectful silence while Ken Matsudaira and Taiga Araki read the 276 names on our wall. After that, you are all invited to take a walk and collect a string of cranes that were donated from all over the country and hang them along the wall. Nidoto Naioni.
Hashlehel, Twa Golapu, Golapudi Ishan, Dit Siaya Yachlub, Alila Abraham Seedsta, Sukobs Chad Tol Al Chad Duf Sakwab, Douglas Abraham Teedsta at Teed Bod, Palawan Teed Bod, Duda Hobish Seedsta at Seeds Goy, Sukob Seeds Goy, Bryna Lawrence Seedsta at Seeds Goy, Sukob Seeds Goy, Joe Ives Sr. at Sud Sapa, Skalalam Tud Sapa, Barbara Lawrence Seedsta at Seed Gaia, Sukob Seed Gaia, Hoyav Ched. Hello, good day to all of you, all my honorable people, friends, and relatives. My name is Alila Abraham, and I'm from the Suquamish tribe, and I live in the Suquamish tribe. My father's name is Douglas Abraham. He is from the island nation of Palau. My mother's name is Duda Hobish, meaning blue heron. Her English name is Bryna Lawrence. My late grandfather's name on my maternal side is Joe Ives Sr. He was from the Skalalam tribe. My grandmother's name is Barbara Lawrence, and she's from the Suquamish tribe. Today I am honored and I'm happy to tell you and talk, or to tell the land acknowledgement for this today's event. Every part of this soil is sacred in the estimation of my people. Every hillside, every valley, every plain, every grove has been hallowed by some sad or happy event in days long vanished. Chief Seattle, 1854. We would like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather is within ancestral territory of the Suquabs, people of clear salt water, the Suquamish people. Expert fishermen, canoe builders, and basket weavers, the Suquabs live in harmony with the lands and waterways along Washington's central Salish Sea, as they have for thousands of years. Here the Suquabs live and protect the land and waters of their ancestors for future generations, as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855. Thank you for listening today. I am done.
Good afternoon. My name is Clarence Moriwaki, and it's my honor to represent the City of Bainbridge Island on their City Council. And I'd like to take just a quick moment to acknowledge fellow elected officials, colleagues, and friends. And so from the City of Bainbridge Island, we have Mayor Joe Dietz, Councilmember Brenda Fountley-Johnson, Councilmember Leslie Schneider, and Councilmember Ashley Matthews. And you realize we're in violation of quorum right now, so you get... And but wonderful that we have a majority of our city council here. I think that's a wonderful message we're sending to our community. From our Parks Commission, we have Commissioner Ken DeWitt is here. And from the Bainbridge Island School District, their Superintendent Amo Thompson. And if there's any other local elected official or elected official of any sort, would you please just yell your name out and tell us the office? So say it. Oh, there's Commissioner Christine Rolfus. All right. Anyone else? Was that? Oh, yeah, Evan St. Clair's Bainbridge Island School Board, and the Bainbridge Island School Board President, Mark Emerson. Any other elected official that I've forgotten or did not acknowledge? Well, thank you very much. And just before I get into the proclamation, I want you guys all to look up to your left, and there is this tree right here that you can see in the distance. If it's sunny and if it's blossoming, that's the tallest cherry tree in Washington State. So I'm honored to read a proclamation on behalf of the City Council and the Mayor. A proclamation by the City Council of the City of Bainbridge Island, Washington, declaring March 30th, 2024 as Nidoto Nayoni Let It Not Happen Again Day, marking 82 years of healing. Whereas 82 years ago, on February 19th, 1942, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, which authorized the removal of anyone of Japanese American ancestry from the entire west coast of the United States. And whereas the first exclusion area designated was Bainbridge Island, and whereas on March 24th of that year, the Bainbridge Island Japanese American community were notified that they would be forced from their homes in 6 days to be sent to an unknown destination. And whereas on March 30th, 1942, 227 Bainbridge Islanders of Japanese American descent were herded aboard the ferry Colocan on their way to concentration camps in California and ultimately in Minidoka, Idaho. And whereas on that day, 227 of our friends and neighbors were the first of thousands of Japanese Americans forced to abandon their homes and belongings and to live under guard at camps scattered throughout the United States due to the baseless racist fears that they were not loyal first and foremost to the United States of America. And whereas under a nationwide fog of fear, war, hysteria, and prejudice, our community stood by their Japanese American friends and neighbors, notably Bainbridge Review publishers Walt and Millie Woodward, who consistently opposed the unconstitutional actions of our government. And whereas after World War II, over half of the exiled islanders returned to Bainbridge Island, where they were welcomed and resumed their roles as valued members of the Bainbridge Island community. And whereas the Bainbridge Island Japanese American community and other concerned residents decided to create a memorial to the exclusion experience on Bainbridge Island. And whereas the Bainbridge Island Japanese American Exclusion Memorial is a National Park Service satellite site of the Minidoka, Idaho National Historic Site, and it is built on the very road where 227 men, women, and children took their last steps of freedom. And whereas the mission of the Japanese American Exclusion Memorial is Nidoto Nayoni, Let It Not Happen Again, which serves as both an aspiration and a call to action. And whereas much like post-Pearl Harbor, today we live in an atmosphere of manufactured fear, hysteria, creating a toxic cloud of anti-Asian bigotry, prejudice, assault, and death, feeding the racial strife that daily threatens marginalized communities of color and sexual orientation, thus threatening liberty and justice for all. And whereas we who live on Bainbridge Island are called to speak to this issue, we have lived with the scars of the Japanese American exclusion for many years. We have not forgotten, and we insist that this history not repeat itself. And whereas on March 30th, 2024, marks the 82nd anniversary of the forced removal of Japanese Americans from Bainbridge Island, now therefore, on behalf of Joe Dietz, Mayor of the City of Bainbridge Island, and on behalf of my colleagues on the City Council, do hereby proclaim March 30th, 2024 as Nidoto Nayoni, Let It Not Happen Again in the City of Bainbridge Island, and urge all islanders to join us in this special observance. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, I am Danny Storr, and I'm a technology specialist at the Bainbridge High School, and I'm honored to be with you here today. When I and my colleague, Kathy Ellison, our amazing Bainbridge High School librarian, had found out that Maxwell Richards had won the Frank Kitamoto Award, we were both so excited that his peers had chosen him. Back in the day, Kathy was fortunate enough to have worked directly with Frank Kitamoto as part of the Arts and Traditions Committee and had even traveled to Manzanar with him. Kathy said that Max, like Frank, has been on a social justice mission, and that mission has been to remove barriers to education for both himself and his fellow students. So let me just share a few examples. We all know that there are already way too many issues impacting a teacher's time. As a result, they can often feel lost, like all of us, trying to navigate this technology landscape. From interactive flat panels to social media and now AI, artificial intelligence, just to name a few. And Max noticed this. He removed barriers. He made a plan. Let me make sure your voice enhancement speakers are working. Being able to hear the teacher is crucial. Let's fix those screens around campus because I want more students to learn about community activities. Belonging is important to well-being. Let me help the district transition to new interactive flat panels because projectors are dim. Students can't learn if they can't see the content. And let me make sure the teacher's interactive pens are working and her kids know how to use them because interactivity is crucial for student engagement. So how is Maxwell Richards emulating the lessons of Frank Kitamoto? It's in those moments when he challenges us as educators to look at long-standing practices in a different way. When he asks why a teacher's classroom or lesson plan needs to be structured just that way. Well, it might work for the teacher. Is that working for the students? And then he tries to affect change with teachers in the sweetest, most positive way possible. Just like last September, before the start of the school year, when he was brave enough to stand in front of the entire BHS teaching staff and explain how students currently use AI, whether they were ready to hear that or not. So Frank was a change maker, and Max is too, and we should all remember to listen to our change makers. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Michelle Bombardier, and I'm honored to serve as your Poet Laureate. I'm going to be reading a poem by Janice Mirikitani, who was a poet and an activist. She and her family were sent to the Rower concentration camp in Arkansas during World War II, and she returned to California via Chicago. Janice went on to write 6 acclaimed books of poetry and was the Poet Laureate of San Francisco. She was also the founding president of the Glide Foundation, helping low-income people in San Francisco. Her entire life was about empowering marginalized communities. She died in 2021 at age 80. In Remembrance by Janice Mirikitani. For Uncle Manuro, who died January 1984. We gather at your coffin, Uncle Manuro. Mother, with her hands like gardenias, touches your sleeves. We whisper of how well you look, peaceful in your utter silence. How much we remember. Why now at death? Your kindnesses, Uncle, as you crafted paper monkeys, multicolored birds to climb and jerk on a stick to amuse children who gathered at your innocent eyes, always slightly moist. We would jump on your back, riding you like a silent horse as you lumbered on your hands and knees from room to room. How much we remember. We rode your shoulders, knotted with hurt, dressed in faded denim, smelling like laundry soap and fish. You never complained of it, only through those dark, moist eyes. And your smile that drew living animals to you, even wild birds. Ovachan said they could smell the wounds hiding in your throat, the wound in your heart, pierced by unjust punishment, racism, and rejection, sharp as blades. When did you vow silence, Menuro? After the camps? After you buried a daughter? You slumped into a light of your own and let life ride you. Your daughter thrown broken on the road by a drunk driver who mumbled she flew from nowhere like a dumb chicken, stretched out $200, not one apology, and said we were safer in the camps. Was there nothing left to say, Menuro, as you slapped away his hot white hand? How much we remember. When they took you to Amachi Gate, locked us up like herded horses, and your dark, innocent eyes, moist with disbelief at charges of sabotage and espionage, your shoulders staggered from the lies. Fear like a cold finger pressed at your heart. Life gasped like a beach fish. The sky scummed over with clouds, and punishment without crime stabbed between the blades of your back. Was there nothing left to say? Menuro, the children who rode you have tongues like birds. We chatter. We remember the mounds of hurt at your shoulders. Could we but massage them to soothe the pain? But death makes our regrets scattered as apologies. We did not expect them to rip the coat of pride from your bones, nor the melody from your throat. Yes, there is much to say. We will not leave your memory as a silent, rancid rose. Our tongues become livid with history and demands for reparations. Crimes are revealed like the bloody lashes of a fallen whip. The falsehoods, deletions, the conspiracy to legalize mass imprisonment. No, we will not forget Amachi Gate, Rower, Poston, Hart Mountain, Minidoka, Jerome, Gila River, Mazinar, Topaz, Tule Lake. Our tongues are sharp like blades. We overturn furrows of secrecy. Yes, we will harvest justice. And uncle, perhaps your spirit will return alive in a horse or a bird riding free in the wind. Life surging through the sinews of your strong shoulders. And yes, the struggle continues on with our stampede of voices. Thank you.
I thought you'd taken off with the money. I'm Val Tollefson, and I'm happy to report that I just successfully stepped up on this platform. Carol, you want to do this?
Yeah. So on behalf of the Bainbridge Island Japanese American Community, or BIJAC, and all the donors from all the years and great money management from the previous boards, we are so thrilled to be able to donate $100,000 from BIJAC to the building fund to make sure that happens. Don't take this to the bank.
All right.
We'll just put that right here.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you to the BIJAC board and the BIJAC membership. Could we have a hand for Carol and all the volunteers that made this possible today? It's always an honor to be part of this occasion when we're reminded of the events that led to the first dedication of this site 22 years ago and to the memorial as you see today. We're particularly happy to have with us today a significant contingent of our partners from the National Park Service, Wade Vegas, and the superintendent of the Minidoka National Historic Site is here this morning, along with a number of his staff from Minidoka. And also from Idaho, Robin Achilles, who's the executive director of the Friends of Minidoka, is here with a number of members of her staff. And last but by no means least, Jennifer Burbank, who's now the new permanent National Park Service Ranger here at this memorial site, is here this morning, and I hope you've had a chance to meet her. Their relationships are all very important to us as we participate in telling this story. We know that we also have with us a number of legacy families and distinguished guests from around the Puget Sound area whose presence testifies to the regional and national importance of this site. A quick visitor center report. Last year at this time was kind of a quiet kickoff of our public fundraising campaign. Since then, the show of support from across the spectrum has been incredible. Particularly of note are generous donations from families of those who were subjected to this experience during World War II, and of local community members who have a profound family or personal connection to the memorial. Notably, a repeat donation from the Williams Family International Friendship Fund. One gentleman recently came forward with a significant gift, and I asked him what prompted his generosity. He said that when he first visited the story wall, after the story wall was completed, the beauty of the site and the power of the story made him cry. And that emotional response continued for a number of his subsequent visits. Our docents report similar stories over and over again from visitors around the world. This is truly a powerful place. Government support for this project has also been overwhelming because of the work of our state legislatures led by Drew Hansen. And because of federal support this year led by Senator Patty Murray and Representative Derek Kilmer, and because of continued support from the National Park Service's Japanese Confinement Sites Grant Program, we are within sight, still a bit of a distant sight, but within sight, of our fundraising goal. So if we are still on your to-do list, this is a good time to do. We are currently in permitting discussions with the city and are very grateful for the attention and care being given this project by city staff and our elected leaders, all of whom are working hard to help make this project be a success. Hope springs eternal that when we meet here next year, we will be standing on the plaza in front of the new visitor center. Hope won't get us there alone, but hope and hard work may, and we're working hard. I'm now happy to introduce Drew Hansen, Senator Drew Hansen, and please give him a big hand at the beginning and the end of his presentation.
Here, make sure you get down. Well, thank you, everyone. You can tell former Mayor Tollefson has been in politics because he knows how to instruct you to applaud at the beginning and the end. I'm Drew Hansen. I am your new state senator. It is great to see you. Thank you very much. You don't have to applaud now. You already did. We're good. And it is a great honor to be here today. My wife was involved in the Pritchard Park Commission shortly after we moved to Bainbridge Island. We don't live too far from here, and this is someplace that we love and treasure in our community. We say Nidato Nayoni, and the way we make sure that it doesn't happen again is with the motto of today, to send to the next generation the obligation of teaching the history that we honor here today. Bainbridge Island is an example for the rest of the state about how we teach history and how we remember. We had a lot of bills in the legislature this year dealing with the teaching of history. We had a Holocaust education bill. We had a bill about inclusive curriculum to honor the contributions of LGBTQ people, tribal communities, disabled people. And I sent my legislative assistant up to spend half a day at Sakai. She does not get the experience of attending Bainbridge Island Public Schools. She lives in Seattle. And she came back just brimming with excitement about the amazing way that our schools here on Bainbridge Island pass on these traditions. And that's exactly what we should be doing and why we're all here today. Part of the way that we pass on these traditions is by this extraordinary monument and this extraordinary site. And former Mayor Tollefson hinted at this. Although I do not have a giant check, I am delighted to announce that the state legislature this year appropriated $300,000 to this memorial to help make sure that we are safe from fires out forever. Yeah. And we did that. I mean, that was my one request in the capital budget, precisely so that we continue working as a community to make sure that this site is here forever. Because the legends that have poured so much of their lives into creating this site and making it such an extraordinary, moving experience won't be with us forever. And it's the job of all of us who are here and all the young people who are here to make sure that this site still exists and always remains an opportunity for people to reflect and recollect Nidato Nayoni. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. As of late, I found myself in the position as a fourth grade teacher, high school soccer coach, and as a new mother, pondering the question, how do we empower our youth to unlock their potential to surpass previous generations and pass on a narrative written of remembrance, hope, unity, love, and of perseverance? My name is Natalie Sakuma. I want to share my story, rather, my grandfather's story, our story, the importance of this community, and why it matters to the next generation. I am the great-granddaughter of Nobu and Takeo Sakuma, the granddaughter of Kazuko and Satoru Sakuma, and the daughter of Barbara and Brian Sakuma. I've come to realize the importance of our unique story, not because I know what happened in the books, but by truly seeing the lives at work in this world, the impact they had on me and those in our community, and how my own journey brought me here, the relationship with my grandfather, and the lessons he taught me. I remember growing up predominantly in a white school, being one of the only Asian students. I remember the little things, like my father packing Japanese food for my lunches and people commenting on the smell or look, or noticing that my traditions were different, that I did things differently, and kids pointing it out. I was self-conscious and embarrassed of who I was. I didn't want to stand out or be different, and it led me to deny so much of what made me unique. And sadly, it even made me poke fun of myself, even with others, something I laughed about with my community, but deep down, it affected how I viewed myself and my own story. But as I matured and was more influenced by my family, I began to claim my identity and found a different and true pride in who I was and from whom I was. As I explored my family, I learned more and more about their journey, the internment camps, the hardships, the heartache, the loss. I felt outraged at the injustice. I struggled to process and accept what our country and leaders had done to our people. I felt their pain and suffering. This was my family. I wanted to know more. I needed to understand. So I went to my grandfather and I asked him about his story. I asked him why, when I did get him to talk about it, although not always very willingly, he didn't ever share it in anger, frustration, or resentment. It's like I wanted him to tell me how wrong it was, how horribly it affected him and his family, and how unjust it was. Everything he had to go through. I so easily could have been convinced that our story was that of only pain, and that it was my duty to carry that burden on to the next generation. But his only response was, I don't look back at things of which I cannot change and dwell on what has happened. I'd rather look forward. I'm sure at the time I may have felt sorry for myself in some instances, but like I said, I would rather look ahead and make sure some of these things don't happen again. I think people shouldn't be judged by anything but their own individual character. Hearing that changed me, and it changed how I viewed him. It gave me so much more meaning to the life I had witnessed in front of me all these years. And going on that journey from not understanding myself, being embarrassed of my uniqueness, to finally understanding what his life meant, and learning these lessons was monumental. My grandfather endured the hardships of being interned at Manzanar. He endured fighting in the war with his 5 other brothers, losing their land and possessions, and facing racism. And yet, he found a way to persevere. He and his family created a new start seemingly out of nothing, one of which is the family farm, Sukuma Brothers, that is still being run by the 3rd and 4th generation. He raised the family with hope for a better future. But the most remarkable thing about him wasn't that he found a future even after these hardships, but it's how he lived that life. I only ever knew him as the kindest, most soft-spoken, humble, giving, and most courageous man. He never let these tragedies and hardships define him. He persevered despite it all. He was humble, kind, hopeful, giving, and loving despite it all. One of the greatest legacies he left behind was that of humility and selfless giving. He would always be there for his community, friends, family, and simply anyone around him. He donated to countless charities, schools, families, colleges, sports, and never turned a blind eye to those in need. He was honorable in his transactions, humble in his achievements, loving in his choices, and always had a listening ear. He never acted, spoke, or lived a life of resentment, but a life filled with purpose and hope. If you knew my grandfather, you knew he was not a man of many words, but a man of quiet, humble, empowering actions. How beautiful is it that someone can live such a powerful life that no words are needed to truly shape his family and his own community. Through his life, he taught me to never let hardships define who I am, to love deeply, to give greatly, to listen intently, to hope fiercely, to work honorably, and to act humbly. My grandfather taught me not only of his own strength and determination, but gave me a lens to also see that of his community's strength, determination, and resilience. He was a remarkable man. His life is evidence of this and truly opened my eyes to what the Japanese experience meant. And I believe this is how we teach our next generation to surpass every hardship and poor decisions that come before us. We speak the stories of our ancestors, but then we also live the stories of hope and love. My grandfather passed away in 2022 at the age of 96, shortly after attending the 80th anniversary here on Bainbridge Island of the Executive Order 9066. He was and remains my hero. Grandpa Sat was the most precious person to me and the person that has shaped who I am now in every way. This is my heritage and the legacy of my ancestors. They have a story to tell, lessons to teach, and a hope to be shared from generation to generation. I often think how easy it could have been for him to share a narrative of anger, frustration, and resentment. But how special was it that he never let us carry that burden? He never wanted us to grow up with that narrative or let us wear it on our shoulders. He wanted us to remember, to share, and to show the world what happens when you respond with love, determination, peace, unity, strength, courage, and honor, just as his own community did the same. And he wanted us to let it not happen again. A quiet yet resounding sense of hope. This is what my grandfather taught me. I share this with my 4th grade students every year. I feel called to share my grandfather's story, the Japanese-American experience, and what it means to the next generation. Even more so, I want to live the life my grandfather walked before me, a life that so evidently speaks these lessons without even uttering a word. We decided to name our daughter Akira Nobuko Sakuma in honor of this special heritage and her lineage, to remember and honor this narrative. I want her to know this story, the story that is as much a part of her as it is of me. I want her to come here to Bainbridge Island, to look at these plaques that name the families that were taken, and to see the power, the strength, the resilience, the unity, and the love all bound up in her name, her family, and our narrative. I want to share our legacy with her, and I want to share the lives each one of them have lived, because I've learned it means something. We all have the capacity to carry our ancestors with us and speak their stories. We all have the capacity to be the change this world needs, not only by our words, but by our actions. This is how I carry my grandfather with me. This is how I share his legacy with the next generation. This is how we let it not happen again. For myself and my family, thank you for this amazing community and all of your stories.
Thank you, everyone. Next, we're going to be listening with a respectful silence as we name all 276 names along the exclusion memorial wall. These were the people who were official Japanese American residents in 1942. So first of all, Ken Matsudaira and Taiga Araki will be reading those names. Once that's completed, you are then invited to take a string of cranes or follow the path along down to the wall. There'll be several people standing there with strings of cranes to allow you to hang those along the memorial wall, where they hang for an entire year through February 19th when